Good night, Belizeans at home and abroad. My name is Leonard Brackett. I'll be your chairman for right now. Uh, this is the Belizean Affairs Show number 302. Number 302. And tonight being Wednesday, we'll continue with the subject matter that we started off back on Monday night. And there's going to be a series of presentations relating to the PCC Act and the submitted report by the PCC group to the Prime Minister for his review and perusal and disposition thereof. Nevertheless, I have taken note that some of what was presented, since I have a copy of it, does not jive or does not consist with abiding by the Constitution, the previous one we had, to work within the Constitution limits, and the effort at power grab based by the new constitution that they want to create to be more pliable and allow them to have legalized corruption and legalized crimes being exculpated under the new version of their constitution that they want to launch, or the changes that they want to make. That is what was illegal before will now become legal. And that unto itself is a travesty. But I'm giving you the conclusions before I give you the essence of the presentation, and therefore let me go back to my standard practice, which is to, on this particular show and platform, in the beginning we make a presentation of a short prayer, followed by a short reading from the scriptures, and then we do a little public announcement or some, overview of what is to come during the course of the rest of the program. I've already done a little of that just now, the overview portion, so I'll just go back to closing my eyes for a few minutes and just say a short prayer, after which I'll do a short reading and then get into the meat. Okay, so again, this is the Belizean Affairs Show number 302. And I'll just close my eyes as I do the prayer. Divine loving Father, thou who art the creator of heaven and earth and all that in them are, thou knowest our hearts, our desires, even our most secret thoughts, loving Father. We come before thy presence once more, asking that thou, first of all, would have mercy upon us, that thou would guide and protect us, that thou would grant us help, strength, courage, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, and that thou will enable us to make a fair enough and reasonable enough presentation of the materials in question, so that there could be some public positive benefits accrued on behalf of our people and country of Belize. Thou knowest that these are trying times, not only just in Belize, but all over the world. We pray that thou mayest accept our humble expression of gratitude to you for having given us the privilege of life, first and foremost, and secondly, the opportunity to still be alive among our family members, friends, and loved ones. And we pray that thou mayest bless those people who are in harm's way, in wars, in volcano eruptions, in storms, hurricanes, tornadoes, and all manner of difficulties, loving Father. Please have mercy upon us all, for us his mercies in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you very much for allowing me to indulge in a prayer. And I'll just read a short verse here. I'll take Ezekiel chapter 18, starting at verse 1. And it reads as follows: The word of the Lord came unto me again, saying, What mean you, O ye, that ye use this proverb concerning the land of Israel, saying, The father have eaten, the fathers have eaten sour grapes, and the children's teeth are set on edge. That is, they get nudged, like we were saying in Creole in Belize, right? I'll go on and read verse 4. As I live, saith the Lord God, ye shall not have occasion anymore to use this proverb in Israel. That is, that a promise was made to the children of Israel, contingent on the fact that they would abide in the Lord's way and do what the Lord commanded them to do. But nevertheless, as we have seen throughout history, from the time that Bible was first put together in manuscripts and then eventually being compiled as a Bible for us, because initially they were just scripts from various occasions by different people. And now we have the opportunity to see that Israel did not always fulfill its obligation and the promises that were made. So there are various times when they went into bondage or were taken over by other people, and there were other times when they took over other people. But nevertheless, as of this point in time that we're having this discussion tonight, history is on our side to point out that what started way back so many years ago is still ongoing with no reprieve in sight. However, that is not the focus of our presentation for tonight. It just happened to have been the part of the scripture that I opened and read. And so I'd just like to move on to say that in Belize, we have our own trials and tribulations. We have the issue of the Guatemalans claiming our territory, which some of our treacherous leaders have cooperated with the Guatemalan government to give the Guatemalans an opportunity to abrogate the treaty that we had between us and them as regards to the boundary of our country, or the territorial limitations of our country, and have enabled these people who covet our territory and are bellicose and hostile towards us to have us at the ICJ right now questioning the status of our country's territorial integrity, which had already been established from 1981 as agreed by the United Nations, the Central American countries, the Caribbean countries, the Latin American countries, and the majority of the people in the world, except for two. At the time, the Guatemalans did not agree to our independence, and one other country. And yet, our leaders are going to bend over backwards and facilitate these people to have as many bites at the apple as they wish to have in order to achieve the same end objective. That is, that to have us become a vassal state of Guatemala and or a 23rd district of Guatemala, and or to be subsumed altogether And the crazy part of it is that the very people that we have at the highest level of our governance powers, to whom we entrust those powers, are the ones that are betraying us and putting us in those difficult situations. But beyond that, we have some of these same treacherous people questioning our constitutional status, trying to eviscerate the present constitution. They don't abide by it. They pretend that it doesn't exist, or they have no regards or respect for it, and currently are embarked on a treacherous process to try and eviscerate the whole constitution, if not to change it wholesale, lock, stock, and barrel, so that they can usurp the power and authority vested in the people to turn around and be dictators in the country, and to have their mind become the law of the land rather than the constitution. That is to say, anything that comes out of their head on any given day is the law of the land. They're unwilling to abide by what we have as a constitution from the time we got independence in 1981. And they have been finagling with our constitution. They have been bastardizing it. They have been pretending like it doesn't exist. And they hold no fidelity to it, even though they swear allegiance and fidelity to it when they go to get assent of governance after the election. And as soon as they finish get the assent of powers to govern, they walk away with the powers in hand, and they go around doing what they want with our government's powers, with the powers of the state. They do not use it on behalf of the people in the state. They use it on behalf of themselves and their cronies and other family members. And they suborn the police, they suborn the court, they suborn any and everybody with the treasury of the country. It's gotten to the point now where the government of the country is pretending to be the supreme authority of the country, when the law says the authority of the country is vested in the laws of the Constitution, and the Constitution says that we have 3 branches of government, co-equal branches of government, and that the Supreme Court is supposed to be empowered with unlimited jurisdiction in regards to this decision making as to what is constitutional or not. Now we have a bunch of knuckleheads who are trying to write laws to tell to bastardize the Constitution, and to tell the Supreme Court that they, as the lawmakers, are making a law to tell the Supreme Court that they have to be silent and just operate as per the desires of the executive branch of government, which is hell-bent and intent on capturing and controlling all 3 branches of government. That can only happen in a dictator or an autocratic society, not in a society of laws, as Belize is declared to be according to the present constitution. The first section in the constitution, the first part of the constitution, says that Belize is a democratic country, a democratic state in Central America and the Caribbean. How difficult is it to understand what that means? I believe that probably a 3rd grade child should be able to understand that in basic English or in any other language, as a matter of fact. So then why do we have these jackals, as I call them, because that's the way jackals behave? I'm using a term that is descriptive of their behavior. If they don't appreciate those terms being used as a means to classify or point out their conduct, then their conduct should not meet that classification. It should be otherwise. You cannot outrightly be disdainful and be a scofflaw, breaking the laws, and then doesn't wish or want to have anybody complain that you are breaking the laws. And to make it worse, you turn around and want to victimize them for complaining that you're breaking the laws. That is the kind of stuff that creates revolutions in different countries, or the overthrow of different leaders who become dictatorial or autocratic in different countries when the plebiscite or the people they get enough of it. Haven't we learned anything from history so far? Of all the many nations in this world and many others that have been before us throughout the history of mankind? But that's neither here nor there for these jackals because they're not concerned about history. They're not concerned about the future, other than for them own self, for their own selves. They're not concerned about um, accountable governance or management. They're interested in getting the powers. And then they use those powers, like I said earlier, to subvert and control with fear and mayhem. And especially, they use the military forces. For example, in our country of Belize, we are a small little country of 400,000 plus or minus. We have a neighbor that has 17 million people. If you say Belize has 500,000 as an average, then, right? Just for discussion purposes. 500,000 into 17 million is how much? 34 times. So Guatemala has approximately 34 times the population of Belize, and it's a much bigger country territorially. But yet, they're not satisfied with what they have, and they want to dispossess of what we have. So they curry favor with the people them that they can suborn, even if they are all leaders, and or they are their own people that they push into our area to come and live among us and outnumber us and outvote us. And then create policies of state that aligns with Guatemala. It's one thing for the Guatemalans to do that right under our nose and for us to tolerate or encourage it or accept it. Or pretend like, well, if they succeed at doing it, then it's no big deal. So what? What we're about to deal with tonight is the so what and how cavalier some Belizeans are about this so what. As far as they're concerned, it's not a feather off of their back or a hair off of their top of their head. They're quite unconcerned about these issues until when it becomes a full-blown crisis, and then they run around with their head in a platter trying to figure out how come they weren't aware of what was happening before it ended up happening. I started this presentation, like I said, last Monday. Today is Wednesday, so today will be the second one. And I promise that for the next few months, we will have to be tackling this matter because it's quite a bit of pages, and some of it is proposed, as a matter of fact. It may not end up being the final product, but you, the people of Belize, or Belizeans especially, who are interested in the well-being of their patrimony or their country and what's going on and what's happening to it, should be aware of these issues in order for you to be able to protect and keep your country. Otherwise, ignorance is not going to help you succeed at protecting and keeping your country. Because the people that we're dealing with, both in our government and in our population and the enemy abroad, are all a part of a conspiracy and an agenda to dispossess us of that piece of territory that we call our patrimony or heritage. And if you're not concerned enough to at least want to learn about it, much less do something about it, then dog gonna eat your supper, like we are saying Creole in Belize, right? Let me proceed then. I have a copy of the PCC report that was submitted. I'm sorry. I'm running on with the program and I haven't launched the other part of it. Just give me a minute. Let me launch this thing because otherwise there's a lot of people that's looking forward to hearing it live and they will not have access. So please bear with me for a few minutes here. I just have to launch this stuff. And I was rattling on and forget that I hadn't done it. Okay. Okay. Should we do that? That's taken care of. Next move is to take this off. Where is it? It's not. Just save it. Okay. I'm just going to do the edit part. I'm sorry about the dead air. Just bear with me for a few more minutes, please. I'm trying to. Let's see. This is locked. Take it and make it. Okay, let's do this first. Okay. So, okay. Two. Okay. I'll be with you just in a few more seconds, please. Wednesday. Just a minute. This is okay. And then close bracket. Information. And that's it. Okay. I'm gonna make it edit. Okay. I got one more step to make. Get locked out again. Okay, so I'm sorry I'm killing some of your time here, but this stuff is Okay. Okay. I need to make it public again, and it's not. It's locked off. I guess I'm going to have to wait until afterwards because I'm killing too much time right now. Um, I got locked out again, and I'm trying to edit this stuff, but it's not allowing me to. Oh, Toledo. Okay. So it has me locked out, and I'm trying to gain access to it, and it's not allowing me to. So I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do about that. I'm gonna have to do like I did last week, just last program I mean, and just let it be. I killed too much time on that already. I gotta leave that alone. Let's see. Okay, I'll just have to leave that. That's that for right now. It's disturbing my programming. I'm sorry, my brothers and sisters, those of you who are logged into us already, and I was trying to give access to the other rest of the people on the other platforms, and I was unable to do so, and my time is running, and I need to stop killing the time. So I'll forego that and just get back to the program for the night. Uh, in the PCC report, as I mentioned a little earlier, we have various parts that they want to alter. We dealt with some of those already last week, so I'll just skip over those that we dealt with already. Uh, and I think we were at number 18. So let's see if I find what number was this part one. So, yeah, we dealt with those already. Just a second. Okay. Fundamental fundamental rights. Okay. So we'll deal with the fundamental rights as they have it listed here under the numerical order that they specified. And I'll have to collate that with the order in which it is prescribed in the Constitution of Belize itself. So it says that under number 7, let me see, recommendation 18, it says to amend section 3 of the Constitution. At least that's their hopes and expectation or the recommendation for recommendation number 3. And it says that amend section 3 of the Constitution as it exists today that provides for fundamental rights and freedoms to reflect the addition of new rights identified from the from this report. So somehow or another, they are making a recommendation that they will decide. They have not stipulated what those what those modifications will be. They just say amend Section 3 of the Constitution that provides for fundamental rights and freedoms to reflect the addition of the addition of new rights identified from this report. That is to say, they are identifying rights that they would like to add to Section 3. Well, it's not just Section 3 as far as the rights of our country is concerned. We have Section 3 all the way through Section 19 inclusive. But they're speaking of here about amending Section 3. Why didn't they put in this report what is it that they want to amend so that we, the people, can know? Are they expecting for us to tell them, oh yeah, go ahead and pass it into law, and after you pass it into law, you can go ahead and put whatever you want into that blank check? It doesn't work like that. Not in any kind of business, much less when you're dealing with a constitution. And especially when you're dealing with jackals, as we have seen them done in the past before. Just about every single law that they go to the House and make, it has nothing to do with checkmating themselves or applying those laws to themselves. They're always exempt, despite the fact that the Constitution says that everybody is equal under the law, including from Prime Minister all the way down. But they want to give to themselves the ability to create policies of state that will accrue to the public's demise, as they have been doing. Almost, like I said, almost every law that they have made when they go to the House has been about taking away people's rights or trampling on people's rights or exculpating themselves for having trampled on people's rights. The Constitution requires of them to make laws within the bounds of the Constitution that validate and upkeep and uphold people's basic fundamental rights. But as the Prime Minister have told us before, there are certain things that's blocking him out from giving us the kind of government that he wants to give us. So therefore, he needs to have these things that are blocking him, which are basically our fundamental rights that he is not authorized to violate, and that people are winning so many cases now. They want to go ahead and just make what used to be illegal before be legal now under the new criteria. Hard and pull what we had to create what they want. They could have just as well said, well, under this particular classification or category that they're listing here, what is it that they're intimating? Spell it out. Write it out. Instead of just playing games. There's nothing else to read there, under that Section 3 recommendation number 18 about changing Section 3. It doesn't spell out or tell us nothing. But let me just go ahead and read what Section 3 says in the present Constitution. Let me just do that for a second. Just so we can see what these jackals are intimating or talking about or trying to get done. Let me see, Section 3 of the Constitution. Yeah, okay, I got it here. Let me find Section 3 of the Constitution. I'm at Section 6. Let me just go backwards a little bit. And I'll read for you parts of Section 3 to give you an idea what is it that these jackals are talking about, okay? Because only you can save yourself, Belizeans. Only you can save yourself. And you only will be able to do that with the requisite or required knowledge. Okay, so Section 4, okay. I need Section 3, not 4. Okay, here it is. Section 3, okay, it starts at Part 2, and it speaks about protection of fundamental rights and freedoms. That's what the Constitution of Belize presently stipulates. And under Section 3, I'll read Section 3, the first part of it, Section 3.1. It says, listen carefully. Whereas every person in Belize is entitled to the fundamental rights and freedoms of the individual, that is to say, the rights, whether, I gotta go down a little bit, one more page, whether race, place or origin, political opinions, color, creed, or sex, but subject to respect for the rights and freedoms of others and for the public interest to each and all of the following, for example, namely, under paragraph A, it says life, liberty, sovereignty of the person, and the protection of the law of that person. And it has also another paragraph B, which I'll go ahead and read. It says freedom of conscience, of expression and assembly and association. And we could even go a little further to read C, protection for his family life, his personal privacy, the privacy of his home and other property, and recognition of his human dignity, and as well, Section D, the protection from arbitrary deprivation of property. No, that is what Section 3 stipulates. And there are other further clarifications which I'll get into afterwards, but before going there, I want to say, if we have, for example, paragraph A, B, C, and D that I just read, why are these jackals coming to us to tell us that they want to alter any of those? But they don't spell out what they want to alter. They just want to go in there and alter it. It says that they're up to no good. Keep the show clean. They're up to no good. Okay? And why? They've been sued so many times because they have been violating these very same things. They have been taken to court, and the courts are ruling against the government. So instead of them being ruled against for violating people's fundamental rights, they want to create changes, take out words and put in words to allow them to violate your rights with impunity, and for the court to have no way of ruling against them for their violation and their crimes that they commit against you, the population of the country. It means that they have no real respect for you. They have no regards for you. When they are going to try and bastardize the Constitution that's supposed to be protecting you, and you give them the power by electing them to look after your affairs, they're looking to chance you instead, making laws that exculpate them from the crimes that they're committing against you when they violate your rights. So now they'll come with a shenanigan and tell you, okay, well, they're proposing to make changes to those rights. Spell out the changes. Just as how the Constitution currently have it in there. What is it that are the rights? And they want to make changes or additions or whatever to it. Spell out what is it that they're after. Don't come with 100 and odd pages of googly gop nonsense, pile up all together as a big piece of chewing gum. I'm getting a little hot under the collar, and the show hasn't even started yet. Let me just back up a little bit and read the last paragraph of that particular section there, section 3, because the next part after that is section 4. And in the interest of public information, or in fairness to the public hearing me complaining about the derogation that these people are trying to do, I don't want it to be said that I was using what I was saying to dismiss what these jackals are trying to do. Okay? I love reading from the Constitution. I love the Constitution to speak for itself, or at least, giving voice to the Constitution. So let me give voice to the Constitution again, what the Constitution says, being the supreme law of the land. After paragraph D, there's another paragraph here that is not numerated, by the way, but it's kind of larger. It's basically a summary, and it goes on to say, the provisions of this part shall have effect for the purposes of affording protection to those rights and freedoms subject to such limitations of that protection as are contained in these provisions, being limitations designed to ensure that the enjoyment of said rights and freedoms by any person does not preclude the right and freedom of other or the public interest. So it doesn't say that people's rights should be derogated. It says that all of us are equal under the law and we are entitled to the same rights. You cannot have a right that derogates my right, or I cannot have a right that derogates your right. That is what it's speaking to here when it says that the rights that we have are subject to affording the same rights to everybody without any discrimination. That's what it's speaking to. It's not talking about your rights being violated by the government or being taken away from the government from you by the government because the government have some other authority that precludes you from being able to enjoy your rights. Your human rights, your fundamental rights, your guardian rights, your constitutionally um, uh, imbued rights are protected under the law. They're enshrined in the law. But they're going to say, okay, well, suppose the government decide that they want to take away your rights. They can just go and write a law or write a statutory instrument or a policy of state and take those rights away from you. It doesn't work like that. Policies of state are supposed to be in line with the Constitution. Any policies of state, any statutory instrument, any procedures, protocols that the government wants to put in place must conform to the Constitution. Otherwise, as stated by the Constitution in Section 2, subsection 1, as we read before last Monday, and in so many other occasions in the past, it says that the Constitution of Belize is the supreme law of the land. And no statutory instrument or policies can trump that, which is why they keep losing their cases. They make bogus laws, they put them on the book, and they pretend that because they made it and it's on the book, people are supposed to be victimized by it without any recourse. And when the matter gets to the court and the courts rule against the government, we are the same people that have to turn around and pay for those bad rulings and bad laws. So we pay them to make bad laws, and we pay for the consequences of the bad law as well. Bunch of jackals, man. And it's not because they don't know what they're doing, okay? It's not because they don't know what they're doing. I refuse to accept that as a true premise. They may not all be lawyers, but they're not stupid. They're just chancy. They figure that if they make the law and you don't have any money to contest the law in court because they have a deep pocket with the treasury of the country to back them up, then tough luck for you. So you see, compared to what the Constitution is saying that I just read and what they're proposing that is non-existent, even in their own proposals, but that is what they're going to come to us and tell us, they pass a law to make that become the law of the land. Has no follow-up other than what they might want to put in there at some future date or some future time. That's not how constitutional law writing is supposed to be done. Which is why I keep complaining and I say, not only are they making bad laws that are unconstitutional, but the people that do the drafting of the laws for them are not proper draft people, or they're not doing a proper job. Maybe they know how to do it right, but maybe they themselves are stubborn to the point of wanting to do what they're being ordered to do or expected to do. Because the Prime Minister already said of the great lawyer from the international lawyer that is taking care of our international court case in the ICJ. He said the man doesn't understand his assignment. You guys remember the Portico deal? He said the man did not understood his assignment. Then if the man don't understand his assignment, why the hell are they going to have him take care of our most important and critical matters as regards to representing us at the Hague, at the International Court of Justice? They're double talking. They tell us one thing because we flagged them about the Portico bastardized deal that they were trying to pull over us, and we caught them and exposed them and saw how criminal-minded they were or how evil they were. They do wrong and they don't take responsibility for the wrongdoing that they do. They're always looking to find somebody else to blame. Let me go back to their stuff that we're trying to explain. Let me get out of the Constitution for a minute here and just go back to the PCC Act stuff that they're trying to bamboozle us with, okay? And I think that was number 18 that I was dealing with. Let me turn it sideways for a second. So as regards to number 18, it doesn't even exist. But yet they have something that doesn't exist as a recommendation that will, at some point, they will bring into existence as a law. I mean, it's preposterous, but I mean, it doesn't even sound correct. Even for me to be articulating these proposals, I think it makes me look stupid, right? But let me go to number 19 then. It says recommendation number 19, which refers to age of consent. Now, I'll tell you, knowing the Constitution as much as I do, and being a stickler for each and every word in the Constitution, in our Constitution, we already addressed this issue of age of consent, okay? But they're going to propose now here to plug in something to cover that issue, for that particular, matter. And before I go any further, let me just explain part of what is it that's going on, okay? Because it is important for people to understand the wider context than to get caught up in the weeds. First of all, when they don't know enough, they get caught up in the weeds and are misled. What is happening is that there are certain things in the present Constitution that the present government wants to excise or take out, okay? Or take away or remove. And then there are certain other things that they have in their mind that they want to replace that excised part with. And we only have one Constitution at a time. So the present Constitution is holding them off or blocking them or holding them at a bar to do certain things. And they want to take those particular pieces out. And instead they act like men and women, decent, law-abiding citizens, they want to act as scarf law. Okay? They want to violate the present constitution, and if possible, by virtue of these kind of activities that they're trying to deal with here, bring something into law, according to them, that will be anti-constitutional, but represents the constitution, because once they wipe out what the present constitution has in there, only this bastardized effort will remain visible to whoever is then reading what would be considered as our Belize constitution. That's a bastardization of our constitution. That is the context within which I use that term, the bastardization. In other words, to make something that is legal is to contravene legality. It just isn't adequate or appropriate. It's impermissible. And you cannot take out the laws and still remain as a society of law. Or you can't bring in bastardized laws that are in conflict with the Constitution and pretend that those bastardized, as the Constitution calls it, other laws should trump the Constitution. Section 2 says that if any other law is inconsistent with the Constitution, that other law is null and void. But they don't want it to be like that. They don't want that other law to be null and void. They want that other law to trump the Constitution. And while we Belizeans are asleep, they are finagling and messing around with our Constitution. Why? They want to grab more powers onto themselves, and they want to exercise those powers within the bounds of the powers of state to commit crimes under the color of law. And they want to commit those crimes with impunity. As a matter of fact, they want to legalize the committing of those crimes by virtue of this kind of exercise. Okay? Whitewash the Constitution, take out the parts that points out their offense or their offensiveness, and put in parts that will be more pliable to indicate that the crimes that they're committing now and are potentially capable of committing is tolerable and is acceptable and is legal and constitutional once it is written in the Constitution. Okay? That's the kind of high power games that they're playing us. And because we don't know that currently our present Constitution has been bastardized by the previous administration, when they put in parts of the new writing that they did to say that the legislator will be the supreme legislator and supreme powers of the country, and to violate the separation of powers doctrine, when in fact the Supreme Court had already told them that that's illegal, that's unconstitutional. The appellate court told them just as well what they were trying to do was illegal, despite the fact that they put it or write it into the Constitution after they voted for it. And then they went all the way to the regional court at the Caribbean Court of Justice, the highest court in our system. And that court sustained the lower court's decision in regards to those matters. And all government, after being told that the pieces of law that they had put into place was unconstitutional and needed to be struck out, and was directed to take it out or excise it, as the term was used, they turned around and left it right there. And the months and the years have been going by, and now they're turning right around now again and pretending like, well, oh, it's in our current Constitution, so therefore it must be right and we can go ahead and use it. Pretend like they weren't around when the decisions was made. Pretend like they don't have any ability to research and to know and understand what is legal and what is illegal. Pretend that they don't know what the settled law or stare decisis laws are, and just go ahead and bamboozle the process because the people don't know any better anyhow. So just let's run over them and just do what you want and to, what the heck. I'll read the section 19. Okay, just let me yeah, it's right here. Section 19 says the Constitution should define a child as a person under 18 years of age. Now, our Constitution has that already defined in there, okay? But maybe these poor people that, in fact, I shouldn't even say it like that. Let me explain differently. Let me not do the derogatory classification before I give justification and clarity to what is it that I'm trying to say in response to this particular number 19 item. We have a whole department in our government that deals with the affair of minors, which is the same as to say children, okay? And that department has a voluminous amount of cases that they have dealt with, rulings that were made, and therefore you'd say settled law as regards to classification of individuals who are minor and or who are adults. That is to say, as an adult, you're constitutionally empowered and have a right to vote as compared to what these people were teaching, the same people that wrote up this craziness, apparently in ignorance or pretending to be ignorant of the fact that the matter is already in the Constitution. So it's redundant. But whether they know or don't know, at least they have an interest in wanting to make sure that it's in the Constitution. All they had to do was review the existing Constitution so that they can know what is in there, what needs to be taken out, or what needs to be added. And that shouldn't be a problem if it's all done within the bounds of the Constitution. That's not their interest. That is not what their assignment is. That's what the public is being told. Sorry. See, when people want to do wrongdoings or do evil, they come to you the public I'm talking about right now, the Belizean people. They come to you, the Belizean people, with all kind of, say, gift horses. I'm sorry for saying it like that. It's a colloquial axiom, right? In other words, they come with all kind of fancy stuff, bearing offering to you with sleight of hand to distract you from really what they're after. And as soon as they feel like they got over you, either because you didn't know better or that you were just willing to be tolerable of whatever is it that they were trying to do to you and give them the chance to take advantage of you, then they take out their big knives and they start quartering you from head to toe. Because then they have already gained your confidence, and by then your guard might be down, and they will perceive that you have given them permission to go further because you entertain their nonsense either out of ignorance or just, didn't care. Careless attitude. But let's stay with and because this stuff is going to be long, like I said, it's going to take a few months. And with my every time trying to clarify or explain, it's just going to add more time to it. And I'm definitely sure, as I told you guys before, last Monday when we started on this particular journey, I am of the opinion, so I have a sense of urgency to get as much of this material to you, the public, and to hope that you get to understand it and be in a position prepared to react to it. I am of the opinion that these guys may not have a referendum as is required of them with this process. And they will not come and give to the public a completed document for the public to peruse and try to understand before having to vote on it and make that final decision. As a matter of fact, it is my impression that they'll try and get this matter done only through the House of Representatives, where they have a super majority, and they will just dismiss the plebiscite that is required and mandated for them to make these kind of wholesale changes. Because the present constitution that they don't have any respect and regards for demands and requires that any such endeavor shall, that's the word that it uses in the Constitution, shall require a referendum. And these guys have been dodging the referendums under the People's Act, for a long time now, for years. They evaded the issue as regards to Oceania, who had qualified the amount of signatures to get their referendum, and they browbeated them out of it. When they were saying that, oh no, they weren't browbeating the process, they weren't taking advantage, they weren't trying to be scofflaws, they weren't flaunting the law. That's what the Prime Minister said. That's what the Attorney General said. So as of today, these many years after, did what they say turned out to be true or not? We happen to know now with the facts that it didn't turn out to be true. They were lying then, and they were lying now. They don't flaunt the law. They just don't regard it. That's the bottom line. They give it no merits, no credence. They don't abide with it. And that's the reason why you'd hear me call them scofflaws. And they get upset. Why? Because they're supposed to be honorable people. Honorable people are not scofflaws. Honorable people abide by the law. They hold fidelity, which is why they're supposed to be called honorable. Minister of this, minister of that, member of the House, The title honorable carries a certain level of comportment, behavior, or credibility, or certain high status, or certain expectations of the people who carry that title. If you're honorable because you got elected and you act like a bastard, or you bastardize the law, or you act illegal and violate the law, how the devils can you be expected to be called honorable? You're honorable because you're expected to abide by the laws. And when you are a violator of the law, you have committed a crime. Once you disobey the law, you're in violation of the law. You should be subject to the penalty of the consequences for that violation. But you want to act as a lawman and go and arrest other people, beat up and brutalize other people before they even get to the judge to be judged. And after the judge passed the judgment and exculpate the people then you can't go back and fix the part of their body that you broke. You don't even go back and fix the doors that you kicked down. You don't give those people up the days that you have them spending in jail while you are out there running around, collecting your pay and taking care of your family. Their family is probably starving or going out through all kind of craziness because you have them locked up innocently at that. You did not follow the process, procedures, and protocols established by the Constitution and the laws. You broke the laws. It should be that when a police officer, when any other government officer breaks the law, that they should be held personally accountable as well, just like the civilians. And they should be arrested and put through the paces and put in jail as well if they are found guilty, or suffer whatever consequence the guilt prescribes. I read number 19, as I said just now, and it's just a flimsy excuse for adding on points or reading points to make the whole exercise more voluminous, because the matter is already dealt with and in our constitution. And what they have here is just one little line. I'll count the amount of words that they have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 words, including a few of them that are just off and a and as, and not in 10 good words. They spent their time writing up an item number 19 and adding it this process for just 19 words on something that is already existing. Like I said, they're trying to pack up the stuff with a whole lot of garbage that people have to read through and go through and claim credibility or credence for the effort. But they're not explaining to people, which they could have done up front. Forget about all these other things that they're making mention of that doesn't even need to be mentioned because it's already existing in the Constitution. So therefore, there's no need to attempt that you're trying to change the Constitution and then therefore have to include these. Just tell the people the ones that you want to change, the ones that you're aggrieved about. Let it be less words, and easier to understand by the general public. Don't try to lose them in a whole volume of paperwork and a lot of words so that they could forget the focus of what is it that you're after or want to do. Tell them you want to get rid of the Governor General. How hard was that to be said? How many words did I use to say that just now? Get rid of the Governor General. Probably 5. I don't know. I don't know. Waste time to count. That's what they want to do. Get rid of the head of state. That's what they want to do. But they got to go through this whole drunken dance and put up all this kind of shenanigan because they don't want to face the issue straight up. I will tell you, along a little bit further down the line in this process, we will come across exactly what I've just described just now, and we'll read those because that's part of the whole package that they have here. We just haven't gotten there yet, or that's not the focus of tonight's presentation. But we will get there at some point in time, God permit, if I'm still alive. The issue is the bastardization of our Constitution has an agenda behind it. These guys are not undertaking this critical and serious and massive effort because somebody in the general public told them they need to do that, or the masses of the people told them that they would have liked for that to be undertaken. They have their agenda. And at the end of the day, like I said, even this material here that was sent to them may not be the final outcome because they have a right and the authority vested in them as the ones who are going to do the legislation to decide whether they want to do all of this, some of it, or none of it. And the so-called referendum that was being stipulated in the act that they passed may not be needed. Why? Because they are currently vested with the power to make alterations to the Constitution. So why should they divert their powers of lawmaking and law alterations and law modifications to a group of people that they are trying to hide behind, that they want those people to take the blame for committing sedition. That's basically what they're after, to commit sedition. But they're not man enough to say that's what they're after or want to do. They just want to get it done by sleight of hand. I will not waste any more time commenting on item number 19 because, like I said, it's already in the Constitution and it's just gratuitous what they're doing in that regards. I'll go to item number 20. Of course, item recommendation number 20 here is not as per section 20 of our Constitution, which the way they should have structured this matter should have followed the way the Constitution is, so that the average person, other than lawyers and people like myself, constitutionalists, and people who deal with these matters, who don't have a problem and are able to parse the difference between how they're doing it compared to how it should have been done. The general public doesn't know what exists. They have no knowledge, experience, or understanding, and therefore they are more likely to be hoodwinked, which is part of these guys' agenda. They're not trying to make nothing clear to nobody. Because of the different items or recommendations that they have made so far that I commented on, from number 1 through 19 that I have already completed, and the number 20 that I'm looking to go on right now. How much of that had been clarified and or is any clearer than what we have in the Constitution so far? They have no interest or intent in being clear about what they are after. So let me deal with number 20 specifically, and I'll okay. So there's nothing to be compared in terms of the number 19, and number 20 says, recommendation number 20 says, amend to remove the penalty. That is, as their proposal goes here, it says they recommend the removal of the following phrase in section 4, subsection 1. Save as is the phrase, or save in is the phrase. Which, okay, let me read it as they have it here. Recommends the removal of the following phrase in section 4, subsection 1, which says, save in execution of the sentence of a court in respect or in order or based on of a criminal offense under any law of which he has been convicted. That is to say, currently our Constitution has a provision for death penalty, which is not used oftenly, especially recently. It used to be used a lot before. So they're saying they want to take away a certain amount of words. So we are saying they want to take these few words out so as to make the Constitution stipulate that the death penalty is not valid or relevant anymore in regards to the future Constitution that they want to bring about. They're whitewashing, taking away the death penalty. I don't know who told them that they're supposed to do that. Okay, but they're going ahead and wanting to do that. Now, I wouldn't have a problem with them constitutionally in that regards, because for them to say that they're trying to take away the death penalty so nobody lose their lives when maybe they may have been innocent, and you can't give back somebody in their life after you charge them for a crime that they were innocent of, and you send them to go and get killed, or send them to the gas chamber, or to be hanged or to be shot. after they're dead and gone, and you find that something was wrong in how they were prosecuted, and if they were prosecuted correctly, they would have been found innocent after you already unlived them, I wouldn't have a problem with people saying, okay, well, instead of just send people to the penalty swiftly when we're all up in arms and mad about the crimes that they committed or what they did, to the point where making the law a little bit more lenient then would not be a contravention of the Constitution itself in that regards, right? You're entitled to make laws, and those laws must be within the bounds of the Constitution. Because even currently, as the way the law is structured, if somebody, for example, is found guilty under this present Constitution that we have, and they are being adjudged as being deserving of the death penalty, the Governor General can rescind, or they can not exculpate, that would be the wrong term, but they can pardon that individual. They have the power of pardon, right? For just about any crime, as a matter of fact, including death penalty. So even when the judge or the court adjudged a criminal or somebody who commits a crime such as, a heinous crime or that deserves the death penalty, the Governor General still has the right and the purview, based on his the advice of his advisory committee or commission, advisory commission, to pardon that person. So there are still many mechanisms by which the death penalty can be overridden. But like I said before, the reason why we are not at the Privy Council now as our final jurisdiction for legal matters is because of this same death penalty query and inquiry and fight that has been going on. So they couldn't get it out of the Constitution before, but now they're trying to write it into the Constitution to say that the death penalty is no more. They don't have the authority to do that currently. That power and authority is vested in the Governor General. But they're going to pretend that, well, since they're expected to get rid of the Governor General, then they can make the decision that the Governor General would have been making. You understand what is it that I'm talking about when I say that? That's the way how jackals operate. Even if they don't have the authority or the power vested in them to do what they want to do, they go ahead and do it anyhow. Why? There's nobody to stop them. They do what they want. And who is to stop them? Who's going to hold them personally accountable for the violations? Nobody. Who's going to hold the police accountable for their violations of other people's rights? Such as, for example, today, when they were roughing up those teachers, they don't have a right to rough up nobody. They're not judge, jury, and executioner all in one. There are ways how you do lawful policing, and there are ways how you do scoundrel policing, especially if you're being exculpated from the crimes that you commit under the color of law. So they want to propose that we don't have the death penalty. I don't have a problem with them proposing whatever they want to propose, in that regards. But I would say they don't want to have the death penalty. They don't want to deal with the criminals who are judged as criminals, who are found guilty after following the process and the procedures through the court system. But they want to throw a blanket SOE over a whole society and go in there and beat down whoever they want to beat down. And there should be no consequence to that. They don't want to be tough on the criminals, but they want to be tough on law-abiding citizens who have nothing to do with the criminal activities that they're empowered to keep in check. Bunch of bust. Okay. I have another 10, 15 minutes to go on this particular show, so I'll just skip over number 20 again, like I said. They made correct reference to the section that they want to deal with, and they specifically said the words that they need to take out of there. I don't have a problem with them, and those are not great constitutional issue around for the fact that they're then excusing and or allowing criminals who go and take other people's lives to not be in a position to forfeit theirs. So they can kill somebody, but nobody can kill them or take away their lives. So they are more powerful than the system, which is why they scoff at the system. When you tell the police officers them to go and use the police powers of the state, which they are authorized to do, to arrest and charge the criminals for the crimes that they commit, they don't want to do that. Anyway, let me just. It goes on to say that the PCC acknowledges the jurisdiction. I'm sorry, I misstated the words. The PCC acknowledges that the jurisprudence regionally has moved away from the death penalty as a form of punishment. We dealt with that just now as part of the commentary that I was doing. That is to say, and I explained that while it used to be in the privy court, which they didn't explain, I went on to explain all that. So, we're beyond the point that they was trying to establish there just now for all intents and purpose. I made a mistake just now. I touched the screen and a lot of the stuff just not disappeared, but it just went wild, and it went quite a few more pages beyond the point that I was trying to. Okay, so I'm right there again. Anyhow, like I said, I had already commented on that, so that's I'm being redundant if I'm going to waste time stating the same things that I've already stated. I'll go on to recommendation number 21, which they say or recommend that there is an amendment to section 5.2 to provide for rights to legal representation. I wouldn't have a problem with this one either, because generally speaking, everybody should have an opportunity to have their rights vindicated in the court, and you can only get to the court if you have a legal representation, if you have a lawyer, if you can afford to have a lawyer, because legal representation is not free in our country. And from one of the discussion that was had before, it would appear that that's what they're trying to get at here. That is that everybody accused of a crime should be able to have their day in court. And in order to have their day in court, if they can't afford a lawyer, at least in the beginning, a lawyer could be afforded to them. Because right now, they don't normally just give you a lawyer because you have to go to court. Either you or your family members or friends or whoever is going to have to raise some funds for you to get a lawyer to deal or to assist you to navigate the court system. Otherwise, if you try to go in front of any judge to plead your case, they look on you and they laugh at you and they dismiss whatever it is that you're trying to say or do. They give it a chance to come before the court, but you're not given any deference or any opportunity to justifiably defend yourself as the kind of defense that they will allow for a lawyer to provide when they're defending you. In other words, it shouldn't have to be like that, but that's just the way it is. That's the way the system is set up, and that's the way they run it. The Constitution says that you as an individual, Belizean, is entitled to go to the court and represent yourself and should expect to get justice rendered to you. But the way the system is practiced, is that if you go to the court and say whatever you have to say to the court always takes the lawyer's words more than just your words as a civilian. They always look on you, especially if you are the one being prosecuted. They look on you as being guilty before being declared guilty. The mere fact that you had to interact with the police, and then only that, but in the police reports, every time you as a citizen interact with the police, there's always a lot of extraneous, bogus charges that are placed on your charge sheet. So that if they can't get you for the original thing that they're trying to get you for, there's all these other things that you have to navigate and that you just have to pronounce on. And one way or another, by the time they finish with you, if they don't get you for the big crime, they get you for the small crime. But at least under the fact that, like for example, I'll give you an example instead of just speaking to the matter just openly, right? If a police officer stops you on the street, if you're driving, for example, and they say stop you because you was driving recklessly, do you think that that accusation can be exculpated as easy as it was for the police officer to make the accusation against you? Even though you may not have been committing any such crime, you're not driving, erratic or, misbehaving or whatever. That was just a pretext to stop you. And after having stopped you, then they have a pretext then to inquire or investigate. And if during the course of their inquiry of you or question of you or investigation of you, you happen to hesitate or refuse to cooperate with them, then that of itself becomes a different charge that they can place on you. That is, you're obstructing them doing their job. Now, mind you, there was no original reason for them to stop you. Like the court would say, reasonable, articulable suspicion, right? They just articulate one suspicion, and that's generally accepted by the court and or by the people who write up the reports. And once you're being charged with any of those fickle issues, even if they don't get you, like I say, for any other bigger crime, let's say they don't find no drugs on you, or they don't find no weapons on you, or they don't find whatever it is, the primary purpose or legal and justifiable or lawful purpose for which they interact with you, becomes incidental. Once they get you in the process or in the system, it is your words against yours. And in most instances, if you don't have a witness, their words will always carry more weight than yours, because the system always believes that an officer of the law will not lie and put his job on the line for lying. So the presumption is that you are the one lying. Don't care how truthful your statement is or how correct your observations and or conclusion, or the fact that they had to interact with you, and that if they can accuse you of interrupting their effort, to illegally have a contact with you and do you some harm for whatever reasons, whether it's a personal beef or it's just a job they're doing on you on behalf of some other family member, friends, or whoever, or politicians or whatever, at the end of the day, you still have a charge sheet, you still have an accusation against you, and you still have to go and get a lawyer to help defend you and waste your time or spend your time in court. And if you're lucky enough to get off, there's no way that they're going to pay you for your time, effort, and your legal fees and the stresses and the everything else that goes with the process. They just wash that under the bridge and tough luck. But my time is getting away. I'm right there right now, and so we didn't do too many of these things tonight, but we have to try and see if we cover them all. And we're at 21 right now. So recommendation 21, amend section 5.2 to provide for rights to legal aid or legal representation. I don't know if the government is then expected to provide that for you, because I know, based on the experience and knowledge that I have, a lot of Belizeans have been taken to court, put under remand, had a case being heard against them. They had no legal representation, and at the end of the day, some of them went back to jail again after being convicted falsely, I would say, just because they didn't have nobody to look after their representation in the court, or to help them navigate the process. And a lot of families have been destroyed because of that process. It's illegal, it's unconstitutional, and it's a bastardization of the process. But if you can come up with some money, if you have a piece of land or whatever, and you can, offer that piece of land to the lawyer or to whoever, and you get the representation, you might walk out of that court vindicated, or maybe walk out with your freedom, but you would have suffered losses. Let me conclude this stuff as I said just now. Section 21, subsection 1. That's what the is being pointed out here. 21 1. It says PCC recommends the inclusion of a right to legal aid within 8 hours of bringing a detainee and or a person who is arrested. Now, the Constitution has already stipulated, okay, the whole of that parameter and more. It's already detailed. So now they're going to make and that detail is not being currently the way it is in the Constitution. It's not being abided by, okay, by the police, by the courts, by the government, or nobody. It is already in the Constitution. But they violate the Constitution by ignoring these things, and they still go ahead and do all kind of evil stuff to people. And they pretend like, okay, well, either they don't know that the Constitution forbids them to do that, or that they could care less about whatever Constitution exists because they just do what they want. Who's to stop them, or who's going to prosecute them? The DPP doesn't prosecute any politician for misbehavior. They don't prosecute the policemen then, most of them, for misbehavior, because they say it's an internal matter. They take it to internal affairs and they squash it right there. Okay, bunch of scarflaws, like I said. I'll leave it. Okay, no, there's one little. Let me see how many there's. Okay, I'll just read this 2 little part that I left here, and just in order to get over it, I think I could spend another couple of minutes and then close the show down. But I just want to clean up this last little part here, so that next time we can start at okay, so instead of keep talking and make the time to go, make I just read the thing and get out of it. It says PCC recognize the data pointing to perceive abuse by police doing. Let me see. Police, what? Okay. PCC recognizes the data pointing to perceive abuse by police. What's going on here? Your battery. Oh, sorry. My battery is about to. The whole thing is about to shut down on me. Give me a second, please. Let me just connect this thing on before you. Yeah, I just got a notice, a very loud notice just now that my battery was running dead. And so instead of closing off the show as I was trying to do just now, I had to step away for a second just to try and make sure I get my battery issues taken care of. Anyhow, as a closing off of this part here, it says that the PCC recognizes the data pointing to perceived abuse by police during times of detentions for the investigation of matters. That is to say, they're talking about the same thing that I just mentioned earlier when I said that even the police officers, they go out there and they brutalize people and do all manner of evil under the color of law, which they are not supposed to be doing because it's illegal. And then their superior take them under what they call internal investigation, and then nothing comes out of it. They are exculpated and they are sent out back again to interact with the community, over and over and over. Those people, even if the internal affairs doesn't punish them, people should be able to have legal assistance to help them take a civil matter against those police officers and have the court rule on whether or not they were guilty of committing a breach of their own police manuals or handbook or police department rules and regulations, and or if maybe they can be convicted under the third law, criminal law, for some of their actions and be held personally liable. But the government, most of the time, they want the cases to be thrown out, or they don't want to deal with cases because they don't want the people to end up winning a case that caused the government to lose money. So they had pull the system and get away. And I'll close off by reading the last little part here, subsection 2. It says, legal aid applies to all levels of courts, as well as, as well as police, as well as police investigation or interrogations. This right is especially applicable to persons detained under state of emergency provisions. Now, mind you, while what they're saying here sounds good, the actual issue is that it's already in the Constitution. Read it. So they don't have to waste time pretending that they're creating something that is not there, which deserves to be there. It's already there. Stop playing games. Stop playing shell games. The Constitution speaks to this matter in detail. There are many sections and subsections and paragraphs, and it's right under section 6, as well as many other sections. Just read the stuff. That's what it's there for. Instead of pretending like that. Anyhow, I'm out of time. Like I said, I was just trying to read it off so I can close it off, and next time we can start at our first location and see how many of these things we can get covered and spoken about before these jackals they bring this matter to the house and probably try to read it in 3 readings in one day and do like they have been doing before, which is also illegal. But that's how they operate, and we shouldn't be surprised if one day, they just go ahead and do that, even without having a referendum, which is required. And at the end of the day, because they're empowered to make laws or make changes to the existing laws, so long as it's within the Constitution, they're entitled to do it. The problem is that they're doing stuff that is outside the bounds of the Constitution and pretend that, well, they're legally empowered to do that as well, and to eviscerate the Constitution under those same powers. And if it's illegal, it's illegal. If it's unconstitutional, it's unconstitutional. But it is for the court to decide that. But if they bring judges into the country to rule according to the government wishes and not according to the Constitution, then the people will end up with bigger problems. Because then if the judge make a ruling, it is believed that, in our country, believes that because the judge made that ruling, you got to live with it. When in fact, people that have money don't live with it. They appeal and they get vindicated, and the lower court decision is thrown out. Whether the lower court did it for malicious reasons and or just as a mistake or for whatever, the bottom line is that at least people can get their vindication if they can afford it. And if you can't afford it, then, they don't care. I would say thank you very much for listening to what I had to present tonight in regards to this particular issue. And like I said, the government have 120 something pages in this particular document, and our constitution has another 129 pages too in our constitution, the electronic version of it. So we have 200 and almost 60 pages that we have to present, which is mean to read it as well as correlate it and decipher the difference between what we currently have as compared to what is it that they're trying to modify or put in, and at the same time to make sure that whatever is it that they take out or put in, it meets constitutional compliance. How are we going to get there without going through this process? I can't answer for you. But I'm hoping to get there by going through this process, which is why I'm expending the effort in order to help. Nobody's paying me or any of our members of our panel to do this process. We are doing it as Belizean concerned citizens. There are people who could be doing this, who the government have been giving money to, but for whatever the reason, they choose not to. That's their business. But I don't want any of them, especially the lawyers, them, come and tell me any nonsense, or any of the smart head ones, them that are not lawyers either, but are just, intending to be adversaries or detractors from not wanting me to say what I'm saying or do what I'm doing when they are not even trying to do as much or more. As far as I'm concerned, they could take a back seat, because I will not give up in my attempts to try and make a difference. That's my job. I've taken it up freely, conscientiously, and without any reservations. I say again, thanks, Belizeans at home and abroad, for your indulgence in allowing me to be able to make this presentation and your time spared to listen to what I have to offer, either when it's being presented live as of right now, or later on as you normally would do at your own timing. God bless Belize and Belizeans at home and abroad. Good night.